alcohol, weed, opioids, pills, stimulants. Beautiful souls, today we're going to talk about how substances affect and disempower the empath. Hey beautiful souls, welcome. It's always a blessing to connect with you. If you're new to this tribe, I'm so glad to have you here. I'm Dani, and I help people awaken the healer within them. Beautiful souls, so I'm going to start doing a lot of work towards empowering the empath as a fellow empath, and much of my awakening, healing myself journey to my authentic self dealt with coming into this understanding of what being empathic means, and I think it will be beneficial to you all. Now, there's lots of places to start. I've got several pages written down, and I just took it as a sign when I had a dear friend today that's going through her process with substances and understanding her empathic abilities. So I felt that this was a wonderful place to start. Now, before we get into this, substances play a critical role in anyone's healing, whether, how you choose to express that. If you just look around, we know that substances are a huge issue in today's world, specifically in like smaller areas. I see it a lot as a nurse and being like a community nurse within my area, and how these substances have affected us. So whether or not, you're just doing healing, as you call it, healing, whether or not you feel that you're going through some type of awakening, healing of your soul, coming back to your authentic self process, and whether or not you're an empath, this is all valuable information. So you can utilize it that way. But just know that today specifically I'm going to talk more geared towards the empath and how this affects us. Now, empaths out there. Hey guys. So let's review what an empath is. So essentially an empath is just a person that has a higher sense. We are very energetically evolved and attuned, and so we tend to feel the emotions of others very deeply. We tend to feel the world around us very deeply. And what this does, especially when we're unaware or when we are in an unempowered state, disempowered state, we tend to try to escape it, because we have yet to see the beauty in which our gift is, and the beauty behind who we are. Alcohol was a really big issue within my life, and within the family empaths that I also have. So, and understanding this and stepping away from the substances was really when I began stepping into my empowerment, in all aspects of life. So with understanding that being an empath digs very deeply into the energetic world and how we sense and feel things, where it's amplified, we tend to try to escape more. So we turn to these substances. And alcohol, let's start there. So alcohol, when we look at alcohol, it's a depressant. And so it depresses the central nervous system. So literally when we are consuming alcohol, we are depressing our heightened nervous system. So our ability to feel those around us, to take in the energetic aspect of the world, we're literally like saying, nope, we're not going to use this power, this super special gift, this psychic ability, we're going to squash it. And we tend to do this because it's overwhelming. If you've watched my videos on what it is, signs that you're an empath, it's clearly a very overwhelming ability, especially in the disempowered state. Now, when we use alcohol, alcohol is also an inhibitor. So with that being said, it decreases our inhibitions to have boundaries. And boundaries are very, 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 very important as an empath. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to go isolate yourself. Most of us empaths do, because we're so overwhelmed, especially when we don't know what's going on or how to deal with it or have that support system. But alcohol essentially puts us in a nervous system isolation. It puts us in a energetic isolation as if we can't feel. And then when we can't feel, we just go do whatever we want to do. We do what we think we're supposed to do. We break our own boundaries and do things with people or around people or for people that we typically wouldn't do if we're under the influence. And what this continues to do is be our crutch. So we feel like we can't socialize or get out in society or into the world unless we have this alcoholic coping mechanism to allow us to desensitize and to not feel what's going on around us or with the people that we are around. So it's kind of like a little escape, but it doesn't help because one, we tend to be alcoholics. Two, you're not really stepping into this gift. You were given this gift for a reason, so we're not really stepping into it. And three, we come home and the next day we feel 10 times worse because we did things that we typically wouldn't have done just to maybe please other people. And again, we've broken our own moral boundaries, and then that just leaves us with a lot of pain. Now, what this alcohol also does is when we have that boundary that's been broken, when it's been decreased because of the alcohol substances, while we can't feel it, it just numbs us, our sensations. It actually opens, where it breaks down that boundary, it opens our energetic field even more because we don't have that boundary established. So you decreased your ability to feel so that you can make it through the day and the night and not be overwhelmed. But when you get home, you may be more overwhelmed because where you opened up that boundary, then actually you were more likely to absorb other people's shit at that time than you were if you had just been sober and stood your ground. I mean, think about when we have drunk conversations with people. When people are drunk, we'll really talk about things that we normally wouldn't. We tend to release a lot of baggage when we're drunk and cry and get upset, and it really just opens up the shadow aspect of ourselves. And when you are an empath and you're in that environment and you aren't within your empowerment because you've desensitized yourself through alcohol, essentially, then while you're sitting there all happy, not feeling it, you're still taking it on. So over the next little bit, you are carrying people's shit around that you don't even realize you have. And so what do? We drink more. Does that make sense? Now, and this is the case with all substances, but alcohol tends to be the biggest one, so that's why I kind of went into a spiel about it there. Now, let's talk about marijuana. So, I'm for marijuana. I think it's wonderful when it comes to, our alternative and like the opioid crisis. I've used it in the past to help with my anxiety. And so I'm not against it, so don't think I'm going there. But it does affect us as an empath, and my journey with marijuana, it was used when appropriate, when I wasn't practicing as a nurse, let's put that out there, and when I was in legal states. So it was used, and I had it served its purpose, and then I kind of, we just fell apart. we just weren't working anymore. But when it comes to marijuana is a disassociate. So again, as an empath, when we tend to not like our bodies a whole lot. We know we're very different in our bodies. We feel a lot of the pain of the world, a lot of the suffering of the world, again, at a very amplified state as to anyone that's not as sensitive. And so when we disassociate because we don't want to be within our body, it allows us to leave. And, on a cellular level, or feel that we've left. And then again, that leaves our body very open to others' energy because we're not there protecting it. We don't have that established boundary because we're not in it. And when we are not in the body, when we've disassociated from it, we cannot be empowered. And so we tend to take on other people's shit again. And then we get in the habit of not being in the body. And when we're not in the body, we're not physically present. When we're not physically present, we're not grounded. And so therefore, you're not really getting anywhere in life, because if you've gone and watched, about the energetic body and the chakras and all that, you understand that you have to be, your soul signed up to be an earthling, and part of being an earthling is being on this planet. So when we're floating in the clouds, our body's susceptible to energetic things that we don't necessarily want there. And then we also aren't being able to manifest and create the life that we want when we're not present. So you just kind of find yourself like in the standstill of doom, in a sense, because quite literally you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, which sounds very difficult. So let's talk about pills and like opioids and things like that. If you need to use them and you're using them correctly, cool, okay. I don't want you to think that I'm telling you to come off your medications. Couple things with pills. So one, when we're using them inappropriately, again, we're using them to numb the pain. And when we numb it, we can't really utilize it for its lessons and what it's trying to teach us. When we continue to numb it, it leaves us energetically susceptible because we do not have those boundaries in place energetically. And when we don't deal with our pain, again, this pertains to anybody doing a healing process, specifically empath. When we do not heal our pain, then we just continue to stay where we are. And it's very important for the empath to do its own healing process and to come into its empowerment so that you can begin to utilize this, because you're really needed right now in the collective, in the evolution of the consciousness of the planet, of the human race, of us earthlings, of the universe. And it's a really special gift to be able to use to help others heal in many different ways. And so when we're numbing and we're not really dealing with our internal hurt, then we're stuck. We don't really get anywhere, if you know what I mean. In addition to pills, and I'll go into this at a later time, I'll do more topic on it. As we are sensitive to the energies, to the feelings of the world and those around us, we're really sensitive to chemicals as well. So most pills are synthetics, and this can play out an issue in our body and our health, how we tolerate different things. And like I said, I'll go into that deeper at another time, but just know that, as you're sensitive, so you're sensitive to all things, including synthetic, non-natural items. And then let's talk about stimulants. So we tend to be really attracted to stimulants, and this is because when we are in the disempowered state, whether or not we're learning, we're going through this, we're not aware of our gift, then we tend to give ourselves away. Reflect back when I talked about alcohol and not having boundaries with it. The same with marijuana, kind of like leaving your body, disassociating. When we're in disempowered state, we give a whole lot. We give, as we take on. So we feel others' energies and we give our sympathy. It really affects us. We tend to be those that say yes all the time and don't establish, physical boundaries for our relaxation, time in nature, things like that. But on an energetic level, when we're really attracted to narcissists and wounded souls, which is part of our purpose, but again, not when we're not empowered, you have like this energetic leakage because you're so open, and because you're so open and you're not making the choice of who you give the energy to and who you open up to and how much you give, it just, your energy just leaks onto everybody. And so they get a little piece of you, you're stuck with their crap, and you're just left feeling exhausted. So we tend to be really exhausted people. We're just tired all the time, and we don't tend to stop and rest up. And when we do physically tend to stop and recharge, if we're not aware and we're not doing the correct energetic things to help us recharge, then we're not there. So we're just chronically tired. So you may find yourself, with the Red Bulls, the coffee pot, teas, things like that. So I'm not saying don't drink such things, but be aware of how much you're consuming. It's really important to just kind of let those step to the side, because if we're staying amped up on stimulants all the time, then we kind of are running our battery constantly at low, or my favorite term, we're burning the candle at both the wicks at both ends, and eventually there's nothing left to burn. So we're really susceptible to burnout, and those stimulants keep us going and going and going and going and doing. And what really is important for the empath is rest. And we tend to be those that think like rest is being lazy and not being productive. And that has a lot to do with how we pick up collective feelings as well. And there's just always so much going on, but we need our rest, once again, a lot more than others do. So if you can let go of the stimulants. So with all of this being said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you need to knock off all of these and go into a sober life. You'll make that choice when it's right for you. For me, I don't know that I really actively made the choice. Alcohol was a big issue in my life, and it's a big issue down my family line. And again, I have an empathic family line. I literally just woke up one day and was kind of like, this isn't serving me, but I was so used to doing it that I still tried to do it even though I didn't know. And it makes me sick. Now, I can go have a little beer at the brewery or something like that, but when I'm talking about getting intoxicated, it literally hurts me. Like, my bones hurt. I feel like I'm coming down with the flu when I consume too much. And the more that I stepped away from it, the more unappealing it becomes. So again, okay, new brewery in town, let's go have a drink, try a flight, cool. But I'm not one anymore these days to find me in the bar, pounding shots, and festivals, especially at festivals and crowds. It's really important to me to not consume these types of things, these substances. I told you with marijuana, I had learned from my alcohol, so I was aware when our time was over. And just be really aware of how you use these substances. Do you use them a lot to shield yourself, to numb the pain, to desensitize yourself so you can't feel And if this resonates with you, you know, I encourage you to take the step to let it go. It's important to let go of, because we need to learn what we really feel in order to manage our energy appropriately to come into that empowerment. So when we are numbed and under the influence all the time, if we're not able to understand who we are, what our feelings are, who we feel like, what our own energy feels like, and when we're not able to distinguish that, then we're not able to distinguish someone else's energy playing a role in our life. And with that becomes the vicious cycle of being the disempowered empath. And that's not what we want. We want you to be empowered. So yeah, beautiful souls, let me know what you think about this. You know, are you an empath? Are you struggling with substances? Give me some feedback here. I'd love to hear from you. As always, it's a blessing to connect with you. You are never alone. And until next time, there's nothing but love and light. Nothing but love and light.